Thank you so very much, Karen. Hi, everybody. My name's Olaf. I'm an alcoholic, member of the Had Enough Yet Big Book discussion group here in Toronto. So glad you're here. Wow, look at everybody. This is great. We get a second life to live. I know who I am, I know what I am, and I know where I belong. When I introduce myself, didn't used to know who I was. My parents used to say, "What's wrong with you? Why can't you listen?" And I'd give them the international answer that I give to everything else. See, I was recently told by my sponsor that not paying attention and not listening are two completely different disorders. With a name like Olaf, you wouldn't feel like you fit in either. But today I like my name very much, and I'm happy to correct you if you're saying it wrong. And I know where I belong. I got a home group. I have a job there. They expect to see me every week, and I love my job. I like to greet. I believe the greeting is the most important job in a live meeting. You meet the person firsthand and welcome them and make them feel at home. Never felt that way before. Not too long ago, I went to a meeting that I haven't been to in a very long time. And when I got there, there was no greeter. And everybody was paired up talking to each other. And I felt completely isolated because I was so alone. And the way I got out of feeling that way was I went around and I shook everybody's hand. Then I went and I sat down or got myself a coffee. It's the only way to undo that feeling of separate. Um, so two parents, one brother, a younger brother, German parents, very strict home where I grew up. Only three rules, just three. Do as you're told. Don't talk back. Do it right or not at all, but you're doing it. And those are a pretty narrow margin to live inside. And I walked outside of that margin many times, and there was a beating to get. Um, didn't like it at home. I just really had a hard time with that. Didn't like school. I got sent away to the children's services when I was 11. My mom said, "You stay there until you're old enough to get out. We don't want you here anymore." And about 6 months later, my dad came to visit me and said, "We're going to bring you home now, but you got to promise to behave." I'm like, "Okay, I promise. I promise." And I was having a pretty good time there. Um, they moved in that 6 months, and that was neat. um, yeah, so just real quiet at the house. Not much to tell you. There was no drinking in my house. Nobody drank alcohol there. The didn't seem like a good idea. I did get drunk the first time when I was just about 13 years old, and I was invited out with the in crowd, the older boys, and they were in the back of the portable smoking. So I took up smoking, and so I felt like I fit right in when I was invited out to drink with them one day, and they brought me over to a friend's place. Um, they were drinking gin. I didn't know what that was, and they filled a big glass up for me and they gave it to me. It was the worst tasting thing I've ever had in my life. But because they were doing it, I did it. And I took a sip and I thought, I'm never going to take another sip. This is the worst. But they kept drinking it. So I sucked it back in one shot because I don't want to taste that more than twice. And they offered me a second glass. And of course, I took it. And not long after that, I had to get up to go to the bathroom and I couldn't. It felt like my legs were stiff and frozen. And I just had no strength in my legs. And everybody was laughing. And I thought that was great. I was accepted. Um, this is amazing. Like, wow, I feel like I fit in. I feel taller, smarter, better looking. All my pimples fell off. And I could talk to everybody and I felt very confident in myself. And but everything was blurry. The room started to spin. I did get up, but I would fall down when I was walking, and I didn't understand why. Um, Later on, somebody suggested, let's go to the mall to McDonald's. Okay. And it was winter time. By the time we got to McDonald's, it was a half an hour walk. I was soaking wet, freezing cold. I had fallen and I was full of snow. But the one thing I remember the most to this very day, every time I walk into a McDonald's, is the smell. You know, the burgers and the fries and the puke. I got sick in McDonald's. I got sick in the back of the police car. I got sick at the police station. I got sick in the hospital. And that's a whole bunch of information condensed into you can fill in all the blanks. And I swore I'd never do that again. The nurse at the hospital said, "We're going to pump your stomach. And I feel sorry for you, young man. It's going to hurt worse than anything has ever hurt you ever." And I thought, this hurts. My stomach felt like it was punched out. Said to her, "I'm never going to drink like that ever again." And she said, "You have alcohol poisoning. And it's a wonder that you're still able to talk." She kept on she kept on bringing hot blankets and ginger ale, and I wanted no part of it. I promised I would never do it again, and I promised myself until a few years later, and we were just drinking beer in the forest. And we did that. We'd wait for someone old enough to go to the beer store for us and buy us a case of beer. Three or four of us would drink the case of beer and get drunk and have a good old time. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. We had a blast. I had a sleeping disorder. No matter what, I would fall asleep. All through the years drinking, fell asleep. Then I would take things to keep me awake for a long time, and my teeth would be screwed shut. And I could, and I, all I did was talk, and then I couldn't sleep, and I was broke, and I just had to stay away from that stuff. That stuff was dangerous. Yeah, I met somebody when I was about 20, 21, and she was the cat's meow. She was the best. Oh, she was such a nice girl. And mom and dad split up when I was 15. Mom moved to Connecticut. Sorry, no, New Orleans. She moved a lot, but she was living in New Orleans at this time. And I called her up bragging on my new girlfriend. And she said, "Well, you got summer holidays coming up. Why don't you come visit?" Yeah, okay. That was, and then the day we decided to go, that was the night she learned how to drive, my girlfriend, because I can't stay awake much past 10 o'clock. And just said, "You know what, you just sit here, hold the steering wheel, press the gas. And when you see the sign that says New Orleans, just wake me up." And so she did. And that's when we ended up at mom's place shortly after that. About 2 or 3 days into that visit, I was behaving. I wasn't drinking. And mom agreed. She says, "She is a nice girl. Boy, you were right. She's a real sweetheart. Have you thought of getting married before?" I said, "No, I'm 21. Are you kidding me? I don't know anything about that." She says, "But you love her, don't you?" I said, "Oh yeah, I love her. She is so pretty. She's the best." She says, "I'll make it easy for you. I'll buy the rings. You can wear something from Harold," that's her husband, "and Rosie, my girlfriend, she can wear something of my mom's. And the two of us could dress up, go to work." We went to cross the Mississippi River into some little old church, and this great big 8-foot guy married us. He was the tallest guy I've ever seen. And rented a motel that night, and it was really uneventful. And that was it, married. So when we got home, I showed my dad and my brother. I said, "Look, I'm married." And they looked at me and said, "To who?" And I told them. They said, "But you just met her 3 weeks ago." I said, "Well, seemed like a good idea at the time." In hindsight, in hindsight, when mom said, "It'd be a good idea you marry this girl, I'll make it so simple for you. You can't say no, I'll buy the rings." What I heard was, "I approve." Getting her approval was really tough, and I thought I'd win it that time. It was hard. There's no point in trying to get anybody's approval because I got to like me in the situation I'm in. And I didn't like the decision that I made. Not that I didn't like the girl, I just felt trapped. And that's a long story. so that didn't last all that long. We had two children, and I got a new job, and then I met her all by myself. And yeah, that was the end of that marriage. And so much for family. I was given an ultimatum, and so I took the latter. And one of the greatest regrets that I have is messing all of that up. And so now I'm drinking worse. I am just plowing through life, drinking and drinking myself. The minute I wake up till I go to bed, I couldn't get hired at the end of my drinking. I couldn't keep a job. I couldn't keep a commitment. I would lie when the truth would suffice. Um, the girl that I left my wife to be with, she was really tired of it. And one day, July 16th, 1993, we were up north and visiting a friend at his cottage. And my girlfriend and I were arguing about should we or shouldn't we go to the grocery store and buy food to contribute for lunch and dinner. And all I wanted to do is spend the little money that we had on beer, on alcohol. And I was already drunk by 10 in the morning. Didn't take long. And never did take me long to get drunk because I have a low tolerance to it. And although I try to keep up with the guys who could drink all day, I never understood that. As hard as I would try, I'd pass out for the rest. I would just sleep, drink a little, sleep, and that I slept a whole lot more than I'm sure I'd slept more than I drank. The We got into an argument on the way to the grocery store, and she finally had enough. She got out of the car, slammed the door, and said, "I'm done." Then she told me to do something that's humanly impossible, and she started walking away. And I drove the car back to the cottage. And I had this where we were was way up north on either side of this dirt road where we were driving. There's cornfields on each side. So there's nowhere to go. And I drove towards the cottage and she started walking back to where I didn't, there's nowhere to walk except the main road. And it was far. And I had a moment of clarity. I thought, I can't leave her sitting there. I can't leave her walking that far. It's too far away. I turned the car around to go find her and she was gone, disappeared, poof, in mid, like literally disappeared in midair. And there was no other cars that had just passed or anything. I was terrified. I didn't know where she went. And right then and there, my life kind of just went zap right past me. And I had the only thought that ended up in my head was, why live? If you can't have her in your life, there's nothing and no one else, anyways. Where we were living, we were on our way out and we had no money. We had no place else to live. There's no point in living. And so I put my foot on the gas and started driving towards the highway, driving, just driving, looking for a truck to smash into. I was on a death mission. I wanted to end my life. And it needed to be a big truck because if it was anything smaller, it may not work out. And so I didn't find one. I ended up making it home. And once I got there, I fell asleep one more time. And when I woke up, I had that feeling of, oh my God, you know that feeling you have on Sunday morning, Saturday morning?
Oh, I do have that, okay?
And so that feeling of guilt and just terror, just absolute terror, felt like I was all by myself, isolated. I remember feeling that way one time when I was 28 in Germany. My grandfather brought me to a place and I couldn't find him. I was looking for him for hours and walking the streets and I was lost. Like the time when I was 8, I was lost at the Santa Claus parade, my brother and I. And in Toronto, they have one of the biggest Santa Claus parades and couldn't find our parents. That feeling of being lost. I don't know if you've ever been lost, but it's not so bad if you know where you are. So that's what it felt like, waking up to that feeling of what did I do? Oh my God, maybe I can go find her and apologize and give her a hug and a kiss, and hopefully it'll be over. She'll forget about it and kiss and make up. And on my way I got in the car and I started driving back to, by now I'm somewhat sober. And on my way up there, I found Bill's car was in the driveway. Bill was a guy I used to work with. We were sign painters. And on Monday mornings at 6 o'clock, he would pat me on the back and say, "Good morning, Olaf. How was your weekend?" And I look at him with disgust, and I tell him to do something that's not possible. And so I'd swear at him. And so he'd smile and say, "Oh, come on, it can't be that bad." And I just looked at him and in disgust, I said, "Leave me alone." I didn't treat him very nicely at all. All I knew about him was he didn't drink. He hadn't had a drink in over a year. He told me stories about himself as often as I would listen to him. And because we're working side by side, I had no choice. And he would tell on himself all day long. And I'd ask him, I said, "Why on earth are you telling me your secrets? These should be secret. You should never tell anybody these things." He said, "Because I'm free. I don't live like that anymore." And then he told me all about himself for over a year. And wow, his car was in the driveway. I I pulled into his driveway. I was just led there. And I pounding on the door. I said, "Please, you got to help me. You got to help me." He says, "What on earth are you doing? What are you doing here?" I said, "I need your help. I need your help. Please help me." He says, what's going on?" And I explained to him what I just told you. And he crossed his arms like this. He goes, "Really? You want to get sober?" I said, "Yes. I never want to drink again. Please tell me what I have to do. Just tell me what I have to do." He said, "Let me ask you a question. What are you willing to do to get sober and happy?" I said, "Anything, anything. Please help me." He said, "Come on in." He invited me into his home. He proceeded to tell me about the disease of alcoholism. I brought him out to my car. I had half a case of beer and some other stuff and some other stuff, and I dumped it. He watched me do it. I've never had a drink or a drug since. He proceeded to tell me about the disease of alcoholism, that it's mental and physical. I didn't know that. He told me about the obsession of the mind. We obsess over drinking. We need to have one. We got to have one. We got to have one. I want, I need, I think, I feel, I want, I need, I think, I feel. I wake up in the morning, first thing in the morning, I think, and then I want, and then I feel, and I act on all of that. My thinking, my feelings, my wants made every single decision for me, ever. That they made every single solitary decision for me and got me drunk, got me arrested, got me divorced, got me in trouble, got me fired, got me. Oh, think, I feel, I want, I gotta have. Boy, oh boy. And today my feelings have no vote. They don't get a vote. If I got to do something, no matter how I feel, I got to do it. I got to take the action, pray about it, ask my higher power, and get some guidance from my wife or my sponsor. And, my wife's on my team, right? So I run a lot by her. It's pretty important. And then my sponsor, of course. And so, anyhow, Bill became my sponsor. He told me about the disease of alcoholism, the obsession of the mind, and the allergy of the body. I take a drink, it goes into my body. It does something on the inside of my body that creates a phenomenon of craving that tells my mind I've got to have more. Now, I really like chocolate ice cream, but I don't sit there and eat a whole tub of it. I like chocolate chip cookies, but I don't eat a whole box or 10. I don't. But with alcohol is different. I don't know. Can't figure it out. I have the bug. My brother doesn't have it. My mom doesn't have it. Nobody, I got it. And all y'all have it. And so he said, we're going to go to Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's how I don't drink anymore. I said, okay, whatever that is. I was just a real willing participant. And off we went to a great big open speaker meeting. Some guy told his story. Everywhere he went, he got into trouble. I can identify with that. And at the end of that meeting, they offered these little chips, and I was too proud to go get my first one. He gave me my first one, and he became my sponsor. At the end of that meeting in the car on the way home, I said, Bill, what was that? He said, that was Alcoholics Anonymous. I said, really? He said, yeah. I said, that's going to keep me sober, going to meetings like that. I said, are you kidding me? There's got to be more to it. There has got to be more to it's like watching a movie. I fall asleep at movie theaters. I don't go to the movies. I don't watch them for that reason because I'm only going to fall. I said, Bill, are you serious? He said, tomorrow we're going to a different meeting. Don't worry about it. Tomorrow's meeting will be more engaging, and I think you'll like it. Off we went. It was a 45-minute drive to a men's meeting. These guys were old. They were 40, they were 50 and 60. These guys were old guys. I was 29. I was 29. And so they were happy as heck to see me. They were patting me on the back, shaking my hand. But nobody ever shook my hands before. I said to him, I said, are you kidding me? Bill, did you tell them I was coming? It seems like they were expecting me. He said, nope. That's how we treat everybody who's new. I said, oh man, I felt so part of and they fit in. They told me to come back. They passed a big fat blue book around with no pictures in it, and they all signed the front cover of it, the inside cover. They put their phone number in it. And at the end of the meeting, they gave me that book. And they said, when you get squirrely, pick up that book and call somebody in on that list. And guess how many people I called? Zero. The phone is too heavy. My standing assignment to this very day is I pick up the phone and call the new guy. I want their number right now. Give me their number. I'll call them on the spot. And I call them twice a day, every day, get him to a meeting and make him feel welcome. Make it easy for him to come back. Giving my number to a newcomer is arrogant, and expecting him to call me, not going to happen. Forget it. How many times have we done that, right? So that's my spiel on that. We call them because we can make the call. And so Bill had me call him every day. And so I did that. Then we got to working together again, and life is good. Oh man, I found these beginner pamphlets. At one of the meetings, they have this big pack of beginner pamphlets. I brought them to work and I handed them out to everybody at the lunch table. Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. I almost got fired. My boss pulled me into his office and said, don't you ever do that again. We don't care what you do after work. When you're here, work. Never mind bringing your outside activities into work. I said, yes, sir. And I never did that again. But I had some participants come up, some people that were curious about it, asking me questions. I didn't have it to give. I just said, go talk to Bill because we worked together. Life was great. 3 months and 3 days sober. Life sucks. Sobriety sucks. I hate this. Every single night we're going to a meeting, one day at a time, first things first, keep coming back. So glad you're here. Got really old quick. I need something. Laying down the alcohol and not doing nothing else made me nuts. I wanted to kill somebody. And so Bill said to me, he says, you tell the group tonight when we get there, I'm tired of listening to you. I listened to you all day at work, complaining and complain. When you complain, you remain. Well, I was remained in complain mode. And so he said, tell the group. I said, fine. What we did in that meeting was we go around the room, tell us your name and how was your week, really. And this was an opportunity for you to get honest and put your issues on the table, and the group would address it briefly and find the answer in the book. So it was my turn, and I complained, and I said, yeah, I hate my sponsor. I hate my wife, my girlfriend, my ex-wife wants me put back in jail. I don't have, got no money. I hate my boss. I hate everybody. I hate everything. And they were laughing. They were laughing and hitting the table, laughing like something's funny. I said, it's not funny. What are you laughing for? And my grand sponsor, who sponsored half the group, piped up and said, what step are you on? I said, step one. I had to take a wild guess, and you don't want to get it wrong. He says, look at the first, you're not. The first step brought you here. Don't you understand? Look at the wall, and the steps were written on the wall right next to me. I said, I don't understand. He said, we know you're powerless over alcohol. It's Friday. You should be drinking, but you're here tonight. We know you're not drinking, but it sounds like your unmanageable life is getting the best of you. I said, yes, my life sucks. I can't manage it. He said, good. That's why you're here. And my sponsor didn't know enough to take me through the steps at that time of his sobriety. He was taking me to meetings. He he didn't know the big book as well as one could, but he took me on because we were close friends more than anything else. And then my grand sponsor piped up and said, look at the second step, read it out loud. I said, I got my list. I've come to believe. I have. I've come to believe because 2 weeks ago, we had a second step meeting. We had a step 2 meeting 2 weeks ago. And I was excited to go to this meeting because they were going to talk about the God of their understanding. I didn't have one. I've never had one. I came to AA without any knowledge of God. Sure, we watched the Christmas and the Easter movies on TV as a kid, and they had to be true. They play them every year. They're fascinating movies. I mean, if you've ever seen them, they're magical movies. I love them. And so they were going to talk about God this meeting 2 weeks ago. And Don, the old member in our group, the old timer in our group, the guy sober longer than everybody else, he said this. You ready for this? This is brilliant. This was back in 93 when you could smoke in the meetings. He said, cigarettes are for smoking. Coffee is for drinking. Cars are for driving. And God is for giving. And my mouth dropped. I said, wow. And everybody looked at me. I've never heard that before. Completely fresh. I didn't know anything. We didn't go to church. We didn't talk about God in my family. And I didn't hang out with anybody who did. And this is my first time hearing anything about, and they're all saying that God keeps them sober. And by this time, I'm 3 months and 3 days sober. And I've been saying prayers. I don't know to who or to what, but I'm sober. So it's working. God's real, no matter how I feel. He pulled out this list, his list. On page 12 in our book, there's an open invitation to create your very own custom made God as we understood him. Have you ever wondered why, in all of our literature, every time they write God, they follow it up with, as you understand, God as you understand, as you understand, as you understand. Everywhere you look, as you understand. Well, page 12 says, why don't you choose your own conception of God? That's what it says on page 12. So he pulled out a list like this. God is, God is not. I'll tell you briefly about mine. I want a God that's eager to forgive. I want to have a relationship with this God. I need a provider, a God that provides for me and you, loves surprises, laughs and dances, a creative God. Look at he made the duck-billed platypus. Okay, he's got a sense of humor, and he's quite creative. He takes parts from everybody and makes something fresh. He's the great recycler. He's my friend, the ultimate father. The big book gives many, many, many descriptive words of God. An expressive God, a faithful, always available, wants what's best for me and you, knows what it is, and he's eager to have a relationship with me. All I got to do is lay aside everything I think I know about him, just for now, because that doesn't work. Lay all that aside and create the list. I couldn't wait to create a list. And then on the other side, write down what God is not: progressive, improving, passive, angry. God's not angry at me or you. He already knew what was going to happen long before we did it. He's he's not unforgiving, he's not hurtful, he's not religious, he's not traditions, he's not family traditions. I don't know what else to write. Certain denominations have certain fears. That's man's laws. God is not list. So then he said, you don't have to believe this list. The God is, you don't have to believe it. What he said was test drive it. Work the rest of the steps and watch how God reveals himself to you. And he's speaking to me and whoever else was listening. And I was in awe. I was in complete awe. Finally, I have something to do, something that I can actually take a pen and a piece of paper and make my list. Since then, I've learned about the God box, the God jar, some people call it. Well, I've changed the name because it works so well. It's an outcomes jar. My concerns and are usually fear. I write letters to God. I put the date on the top right-hand corner. Dear God, it's me, Olaf. Here's my issue, and I write it down. I believe you can help me. Please help me. It didn't start off that way. It started off more like, my sponsor told me to write a letter to you. I'm not sure if you exist. I'm not sure if I believe this is going to work, but I'm doing it anyways because I want it to work. I want to believe. I really, really do. And so I wrote the letter in a box. And I put my box on the windowsill, and my box was full. And one day the wind blew out three of my letters. I looked at the floor, I watched them blow out of the box, and I picked them up and I read them, and those problems had been solved long ago. I am constantly, completely amazed by what God does. He loves me so much, and he loves you just as much. This, be still and know there is one. All I got to do is be still and pay attention and ask for help and thank him all the time. In all things, give thanks. Today, if I was to describe God to you in one word, it would be comfort. Tell you more about that in a second. And I'm sitting there in the meeting. My chair is glued to the seat. I have an assignment to go home and create a custom built God with a God box. And now it's an outcomes jar. So many years later. And I'm excited. This is the best meeting I've had in my life. This is the best time I've ever had in sobriety. I cannot wait to do it. Then he said, oh, by the way, the third step's really easy. Quit playing God. Clearly, it doesn't work for you. Quit trying to manage and control everybody. Stop demanding things from her, because she came back. We found somewhere new to live, and everything's fine. She comes back, and we're trying to get sober, staying sober. And so I did. He said, you go home and do a fourth and a fifth step and come back next week and let us know how that turned out for you. And I said to Bill, Bill, I'm making my second step, God, tonight in the car on the way home. You need to help me write a fourth step, because I'm not coming back next week and tell him it ain't done. Not happening. I am not coming back to the only place that has ever made me feel this welcome, that has asked me to join the group, that wants me here every week, that loves me this much. I am not coming back next week and tell them it ain't done. Not happening. That rule I grew up with, do it right or not at all, but you're doing it, kicked into high gear. And I did it. And when I came back the following week, I had admitted to God in prayer. Admitting it to God is a prayer. Dear God, this is me, and I read it all out to him. Admit to myself in the mirror, look at myself every now and again in the mirror, and then admit it all to my sponsor. My sponsor started off by telling me 3 or 4 big deals that happened to him. Whoa. Made me look like a kindergarten kid, like made my stuff look real small, and told him all my stuff. And I came back next week, and my grand sponsor, who's always the early bird, he's always there first. He said, "You did it, didn't you?" I said, "It'd be nice for you to say hello first. How do you know?" And I said to Bill, I said, "Did you tell him I did my fifth step?" He said, "Nope." I said, "How do you know I did my fifth step?" He said, "Because I can tell that furrow in between your eyebrows is gone. Look at your smiling. You have teeth." I wouldn't smile before. I couldn't look at you before. I was always looking on the floor. This loving, laughing, eager to forgive, comforting, creative God that wants what's best for each and every one of us is unbelievable. My son, he was a troubled boy. He was in and out of jail. He was in and out of the children's services when he was a kid, and he he took a gun to his girlfriend's face, pulled the trigger, but the bullet didn't come out. Something happened, and well, God stepped in and prevented that from happening. He went to prison, and she's still alive, looking after the grandkids. They've got She's got 4. And so he went to prison for 6 years. And I was excited for him. Now he's not getting into any trouble, but he's calling all the time. And he would call, and we would chit chat. And I said, "Let's read the book." So we would read the big book together. And I was really hopeful. He came out of jail and came to a couple of meetings and ended up back in jail 3 more times. They'd let him out, he'd get back. They let him out, he'd go back. The third time he came out, his new girlfriend took him hostage and said, "We're getting married." They got married. I could see that coming. And so I thought, well, all right, let's see what happens. And in February, 3 years ago, it was a pounding at the door. It was 4 a.m. Couldn't believe it. Somebody's pounding at the front door here, ringing the doorbell. I ran to open up the door. I said, "Who are you and what do you want?" And she said, "It's me, Jennifer, Justin's wife." "Oh, don't tell me he's back in jail." She said, "No, he's dead." I said, "What?" She said, "He's dead. We just came back from the morgue." And I fell to my knees. I was in tears. I was in agony. I said, "No, no, no." Now what? Like, I don't know what to do with that. I've never experienced death before like this, not this close. And so my wife came out. She said, "What's going on?" And I told her, and we invited them in. Jennifer, my daughter-in-law, and her father came in. They drove 4 hours to come. They live up in a reserve. And so I was just completely, how would you handle that? Like, what words would you say? I had nothing to say. I was numb. I was sitting there rocking like this with my face in my hands. I didn't know what to say. Um, Others than, what am I supposed to do with this now, God? How am I supposed to handle this? Tell me, what am I supposed to do? And we reminisced, we talked, and I just wanted them to leave, and they finally did. And I said to my wife, I said, "What are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do?" And she said, "Well, we better call Sarah and Steve, because we had plans to go to a bed and breakfast that weekend." And I said, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that." She said, "Yeah, we've had it planned for weeks. You should call them and cancel." I said, "Cancel? And then what? Stay home? It's February. We're going snowshoeing." "No, we're not going to cancel. What would we be doing if this wasn't happening? We'd be going." He's finished. He's laying in a morgue, in a bag. Drugs kill people. I accept that. I embrace that. I know that. I've seen that in AA. I know drugs kill. He had his chance. And no, I'm not going to see him. I want to remember him the way I remember him from the last time we seen him. 2 weeks ago, we went tobogganing. And the week before that, we celebrated his birthday. I want to remember, and we have pictures. I want to remember that. I don't want to see him laying there. Tear me up. So we went snowshoeing, and it was a 3 hour drive north. And all the way up north, I said, what do we do with this, God? What do we do with this? What do you want me to do? And I had a moment of clarity, and I got a message in my heart. Olaf, it's the password. It's the password. And I'm thinking, the password, the password. And some time ago, I heard a message that everything and everyone has passwords on everything, on our computer, on our phones, on our bank accounts, everything, everywhere you look, you have to punch in your password. And the password to heaven is thank you. The password to a relationship with God is thank you. And I said, and I'm thinking all this in my head really fast. God, I'm not thankful that he's dead. Okay. I'm not going there. And quickly I got redirected. Thank you for allowing me to be a father for 32 years to a boy who was troubled. I walked through thick and thin with him. I went to court with him. I watched him get married. We fed the ducks together. We'd throw bread up in the air and let the seagulls come and catch it. It's pretty magical if you've ever want to have any fun. Go on. It's a lot of fun. Go to the river, to the lake. We did that. We did so many things. I helped him move. I got to be a dad when he let me be a dad. I got to answer his phone calls. I answered every one of his phone calls when he was in jail. I was there. I was present for him. He was 4 when I got sober. I can't, 29 years. I had a long time to be his dad, sober dad. And I was present. We went everywhere together. The password is thank you. In all things, give thanks and say so. Who's ever been overthanked? Anybody? Right. My sponsor's wife taught me about thanking amends. Who have I not thanked? Pick up the phone and start calling them up. I have a grade 7 teacher that I wish I could thank one more time. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. I refuse to die with him. He's gone. That's something he didn't mean to do it. I'm sure he didn't. And that chapter is closed. I still have moments, but I'm at peace, and the comfort that God gave me through all of that. We got flowers, we got cards, we got phone calls, emails, letters. Unbelievable, the love from my friends in both AA and my Al Anon friends. Holy moly. 3 days later, my sponsor phones me up and says, Olaf, meet me at the airport. I'll be there at 5 o'clock. I said, what? He says, yeah, I'm coming to visit you. I've got a 3-day pass. I'm coming to see you. He doesn't live in Canada. He lives in the States. I said, really? You're coming to visit me? I asked the question I was forbidden to ask. He says, we don't ask the question why, ever. It's a management question. When I ask the question why, I'm playing God. I'm really looking for an argument or fight. I don't dare ever ask why. I've never asked God why. Never, ever. Don't put a question mark where God puts a period. Let it go. His plans are far better than any plans that I could ever have. So I said, so you're coming to visit me? Why are you coming here? Like, it's a long flight. He said, Olaf, you can pretend to care, but you cannot pretend to show up. And I started crying on the phone. I thought, wow. So he came, and we gave him a whole bunch of ice cream and spoiled him to bits. It was a wonderful time. 2 weeks later, him and I flew from Toronto, and he flew from where he lives. And we went to a men's retreat in Florida. It was warm in Florida on February. Oh, wow. We have real deep snow up here in February. It's nice to visit there in February. Boy, oh boy. And so we went there, and on Saturday, there's usually a 4 hour break of, you know, time to be alone with your higher power or your sponsor. So I asked him, I said, can you help me write the letter? He said, sure. I heard him talk about the letter many times. And I thought, this is going to really help. So we sat in a gazebo near the ocean, and he said, here's a pen and here's a piece of paper. Write Justin a letter. Just write whatever's on your heart. Just write. And I couldn't stop crying. He said, put the pen down and cry. Let the tears, just let them come out. Let them come out. And finally, when I got my composure back, I was able to write some more. And that went on for 40 minutes. 40 minutes of crying, put the pen down, crying, put the pen down. Partway through, he said, would you like me to hold you? I said, okay. And he did. He didn't pat me on the back. He didn't rub my back. He just held me. And that touch need had to be met that day. And I got that from him. And when I finished, he says, what about his children, your grandchildren? And oh my God, I started crying some more. Now I get to be the best grandfather that I can be to them, because he would like to be the best dad to them, but he can't right now. And so after we finished that, we went out on this. They have really long docks in Florida. I mean, I don't understand why they're so long, but we walked way out on this long dock, and we stopped part way. And he says, okay, now we're going to say a prayer. And when you're done, say amen. I said, okay. And we did that. And then he gave me a lighter and he says, now light it up. Let the smoke go up to heaven and the ashes fall into the ocean. And I did that. And then he said, now you just go to your room and have a nap. Just go and be at one with God for a little while. Go spend some time with your higher power. And I did that. It was so freeing. Why do I tell you that? It has been the most pivotal experience. I've been sober since 1993, but that experience has really, really changed so much for me. I was watching this show on TV one time, and people are addicted to drugs and pills. And I thought, well, we could always trust God and do good, right? The side effects of trusting God are unlimited refills, take as often as needed, impossible to overdose. And to do good, the unlimited refills, take as often as needed, impossible to over. Oh, and the side effects are peace, joy, stability, confidence, and rewards later on. There is no better medicine to take than to trust God and do good. I thought it was a really great visual. One of the other standing assignments that I have is to spread love and joy everywhere I go. And question for you, do you know why everybody drives so slow in traffic? Because they left on time, right? I left late again. I'm late. I'm having a conniption fit. Honk the horn. And I'm like, rah, rah, rah. And so is everybody else. Well, he has changed it for me. He says, Olaf, what I want you to do is put on one of these. And now keep honking your horn and wave at the people beside you. And if they smile, which they will, then mission accomplished. And since you're not going anywhere, blow some of these. And I tell you, the kid at the grocery store who's having a fit because mom won't buy the proper cereal that he wants shuts right up the minute you put on one of these noses and start blowing bubbles. It worked on the airplane. There was a little kid having a fit on the airplane. I just started blowing these bubbles, and suddenly the child stopped. Now that spreads love to more than just one place. The people that are watching, it lights them up. It lights up the kid. It lights up his parents. And he stopped crying, and I don't have to listen to it either. So everybody gets a bit of love. It's This life is so amazing. Asking God each and every day, God, show me how I can be a message for you. Use me in such a way that others know that you're alive and well and you want what's best for them. The first prayer I learned next to the serenity prayer was, you ready for this? Dear God, reveal yourself to me in such a way I know it's you. Imagine that's, I double dare you to try that. Dear God, reveal yourself to me in such a way I know it's you. Get ready. Get ready. It's fascinating what happens. 5 ways God worked in your life today. Make a list every day and send it to your sponsor. Send it to the people you sponsor. Have them send you their 5 ways that God worked in their life. Magic. I don't think God has any grandchildren. Each and every one of us are brothers and sisters, and our last name is God. Thanks so much for asking me to come today. This was fun.